Have you ever gone to a wedding as just a guest, only to leave feeling like the whole world has shifted? I'm Mark, an ordinary guy living a quiet life, until that fateful night, a fleeting glance, an unexpected dance, and a single sentence that stopped my heart. Dance with me, before he notices. This is a true story, raw with emotion, packed with twists you won't see coming. Stay with me because this tale will tug at your heartstrings. I'm Mark, 32, living in a small town just outside Denver. My life these days feels like an old country song, stuck on repeat, not sad, but not exactly joyful either. 6 months ago I broke up with my girlfriend of 4 years. No drama, no betrayal. We just drifted apart, like two cars passing on a quiet highway, no longer seeing each other's headlights. I don't blame her, and I don't blame myself, but when a relationship ends, it leaves a void, like you've forgotten who you are. Live alone in a modest apartment with a window overlooking a sleepy street. By day, I work as an interior designer, crafting kitchens and living rooms, trying to add warmth to other people's lives. But my own feels a little colorless. I haven't dated, not because I don't want to, but because I'm not ready. Some nights I sit on my couch staring at the streetlights filtering through the blinds, wondering if I'm letting life slip by. Then one day a wedding invitation arrived in my mailbox. It was from Ben, my old college roommate. We were close back then, but life pulled us apart. The invite felt like an afterthought, arriving late, almost like a courtesy. I nearly declined. A wedding for an old friend, where I'd know no one, sounded like a long, awkward evening, but then I thought, why not? Maybe a night out would shake me out of this rut. I wanted to feel something, anything. I dug out a navy suit from my closet, the kind you wear when you've got no other options. It was a bit tight in the shoulders, but I didn't care. The wedding was at a cozy venue tucked among pine-covered hills. The late summer air was crisp, scented with pine and fading sunlight. I showed up alone, no expectations. Just sit through it, have a drink, make small talk with strangers, and slip out early. The ceremony was simple, nothing flashy. Ben stood there, beaming next to his bride, while I sat in a corner of the reception hall, away from the main lights. I watched the crowd, smiles, hugs, and toasts filling the air like a cheerful soundtrack. But I felt out of place, like an uninvited guest who wandered in by mistake. I sipped my whiskey, trying to blend in, but inside I was still hollow. Then I saw her. She was sitting a few tables away, wearing a pale blue dress, not showy, not trying to stand out, but somehow she did. The soft glow of string lights danced on the fabric, like she was carrying a piece of the sky. She wasn't smiling, wasn't joining the loud laughter around her. She held a glass of white wine, taking small sips, her gaze distant, like she was somewhere else entirely. There was a quiet sadness in how she sat, how she held her glass, like she was hiding something. I noticed a man, probably her husband, at the bar, laughing loudly with his buddies. He didn't glance her way, not once. To him she seemed invisible, a faint shadow in the bright chaos of the party. I told myself I was reading too much into it. Maybe she just needed a moment to herself, but then her eyes met mine. It wasn't a flirty look, not the kind that screams romance. It was more like a whisper through her gaze. I'm here. Do you see me? My heart skipped a beat, and I looked away. Was she sending a signal, or was I a lonely guy, projecting meaning onto a fleeting moment? I told myself to stop overthinking. I didn't know her. I didn't know her story. But that look lingered, like a song you can't unhear. I took another sip of whiskey, trying to focus on the music, the couples filling the dance floor. But her image stayed, vivid and unshakable. 15 minutes passed, maybe 20. The music shifted to a slow, classic wedding song everyone knows. The crowd softened, the lights dimmed, and the atmosphere turned intimate. I sat there, thinking it might be time to leave. Then a light touch on my shoulder startled me. I turned around. There she was, closer than I expected. Her pale blue dress shimmered in the low light, and her eyes, tired but resolute, locked onto mine. Before I could say anything, she spoke, her voice soft but steady, like she'd rehearsed it 1,000 times. Dance with me, she said, before he notices. My heart stopped. There was something in her voice, not an invitation, but a plea. I stood up, moving before my brain could catch up. We walked to a quiet corner of the dance floor, out of sight from prying eyes. She placed her hand in mine, light but deliberate, like it was the first time in years she'd truly touched someone. We started to dance, slow, following the music's rhythm. I'm no dancer, but in that moment, it didn't matter. We were there, together, in a tiny world amid the crowd. I looked at her, and for the first time, I saw her clearly. Her eyes held a deep sadness, but also a spark, like she was rediscovering herself, even if just for a few minutes. She didn't speak, neither did I, but our eyes met, and I knew this wasn't just a dance. It was a moment where we both, somehow, truly saw each other amid the broken pieces of our lives. I stood there, heart pounding, as she said again, "Dance with me," before he notices. Her voice was soft but carried a strange strength, like she'd poured all her courage into those words. I didn't think. My feet followed her, drawn by some invisible force. We moved to a shadowed corner of the dance floor, where the lights were dim and the chatter faded. She placed her hand in mine. Her fingers were gentle but firm, like someone grasping a last chance. I'm not much of a dancer, but I kept the rhythm, swaying to the slow, familiar wedding song playing through the speakers. It was the kind of music that makes you think of old promises and forgotten dreams. I looked at her, and in the soft light, her face came into focus. Her eyes, weary but bright, searched for something long lost. We didn't speak for the first minute, just the rhythm, our steps, and her quiet breathing blending into the air. I sensed her tension, like she was standing on a fragile edge. I glanced toward the bar. The man, her husband, I assumed, was still laughing, his back to us, but for a split second he looked up, his eyes scanning the dance floor. My heart tightened. Did he see us? Did he care? Then he turned back to his conversation, as if she didn't exist. She tilted her head, her hair falling softly over her shoulder, the dress catching the light. She gave a small smile, not for me, but for some private memory. I haven't danced like this in years, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Not with a stranger. With someone who looks at me like I'm still here. Her words hit like a quiet blade, sharp but not painful. I didn't know how to respond. I just squeezed her hand gently, hoping she'd know I understood, even if I wasn't sure I did. We kept dancing, slow, like two people stepping into a world only they could see. It wasn't romantic in a Hollywood way, no longing gazes or sweet nothings. It was real, a quiet connection between two strangers, like we'd met before in some forgotten dream. She glanced over her shoulder, just once, toward the bar. Her husband was still there, now on his phone, the screen lighting with his face. He didn't look at us, didn't look at her. She closed her eyes for a second, like she was locking this moment away somewhere safe. "Thank you," she whispered, so soft I almost missed it. The song ended, the music stopped, but we stood there, hands still clasped, not ready to let go. Then she pulled away, gently, like she was afraid of breaking something. "That's enough," she said, her voice calm but firm. She turned, walked back to a table, and sat down, picking up her wine glass as if the dance had been a dream. I stood on the dance floor, surrounded by other couples laughing and embracing. I looked at her from a distance, but she didn't look back. She sipped her wine, her gaze distant again, like she'd never left her seat. I returned to my table, my mind blank but my heart heavy. I didn't know her name. I had no number, no clue about her. But that moment, that dance, was etched into me. I wondered what had just happened. I was just a guest at this wedding, an outsider, yet I'd stepped into a story that wasn't mine. Or was it? I looked around the room, the lights still twinkling, the music starting up again, but everything felt different. I didn't see her again that night. She vanished into the crowd, into her life, leaving me with a strange feeling like I'd found a puzzle piece but didn't know the picture it belonged to. Driving home that night. Her image lingered, the pale blue dress, those tired but resolute eyes, and her words, "Dance with me, before he notices." I didn't know if I'd see her again. I didn't know if she'd think of this moment like I would. But I knew one thing. That dance wasn't just a dance. It was the start of something bigger, something I couldn't yet name. A brief dance, a shared glance, and then an unexpected text pulled me into her world. "I'm Mark, and she's Alice," the woman with sad but determined eyes. We weren't looking for love, but every text, every meeting, brought us closer. "Is this worth the risk? Stay with me, because the glow of my phone lighting up my face. A text from an unknown number popped up. "Hey, it's Alice from the dance at the wedding. Just wanted to say thank you. It meant more than you know." I read it over and over, my fingers hovering over the keyboard, unsure how to reply. Alice. I finally had a name. One typed and deleted, typed and deleted. Finally I sent, "Hey Alice, glad it meant something. Hope you're okay." Less than a minute later, she replied, "Okay is complicated, but you made me feel like myself again, even if just for 3 minutes." Her words were like a stone dropped into the still lake of my heart. What makes a stranger say something like that? But I knew I wanted to find out. We started texting, slowly, cautiously. It wasn't flirting, not some romantic spark. It was more like two people standing on opposite sides of a fence, passing notes through the gaps. She told me about herself. Alice Monroe, living not far from me, working part-time for a non-profit. She had 2 kids, a 7-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl. Her husband was a regional sales manager, always on the road, always busy, even when he was home. She didn't say it outright, but I could feel it in her words. Her marriage was like a house with a perfect exterior but a cold, empty interior. She talked about her younger days, when she danced professionally, dreamed of being a school counselor. Then she got pregnant, got married, and those dreams were folded away, tucked into some forgotten corner. I didn't ask too much. I just listened. Some nights I'd lie in bed reading her texts, feeling both close to her and a million miles away. A week later I suggested coffee. Not a date, just coffee, somewhere neutral, in the middle of the day. She didn't reply right away. I thought I'd overstepped, but the next morning, one word came through. "Okay." We met at a small coffee shop near a park. She showed up, hair pulled back, no makeup, wearing a simple sweater. She smiled when she saw me, not a polite smile, but one that felt like she'd found something familiar. I ordered a black coffee. She got tea. We sat outside under the trees, sunlight filtering through the leaves. At first we talked about safe things, work, the weather, how her son loves drawing dinosaurs. But then she paused, staring at her tea, her fingers tracing the rim of the cup. "I know how this might look," she said, her voice low. "I'm not trying to cheat or run away. I just want to feel like a person again, not just a mom, a wife, or someone waiting for attention that never comes." I nodded. "I get it." She looked up, her eyes full of sincerity. "No offense, but I didn't pick you. That night, you were just someone who didn't look through me." Her words cut, not painfully, but enough to make me pause. I wanted to say she didn't need to explain, but she kept going. "I need to say this out loud for myself." We sat in silence, listening to the rustle of leaves and distant traffic. Then she laughed, a small, breathy sound. "My therapist would have a field day with this." I raised an eyebrow. "You have a therapist?" She nodded. "Had one." I stopped because I wasn't ready to face the things I needed to fix. She glanced at her watch. "I've got to pick up my son in 30 minutes. She stood, pulled a small notebook from her bag, tore out a page and scribbled something. "This is my real number," she said, handing it to me. I blinked. "I already have your number," she smiled. "That's my work number." Then she walked away, leaving me on the sidewalk, holding the paper like it was a dangerous secret. That night I stared at her number in my phone. I wanted to text something, but I didn't know where to start. Finally, near midnight, I sent, "Anyway, I saw you." The next morning, as the sun rose, my phone lit up. That means more than you know. After that meeting, we didn't text. Every day. The messages grew less frequent, shorter, but always honest. I tried not to intrude, not to complicate her life more than it already was. But she stayed in my mind, like a song I couldn't stop humming. 3 weeks later, I ran into her at the grocery store. She was in the produce aisle, holding a shopping list, her daughter in the cart, kicking her legs happily. She didn't see me at first. I hesitated, wondering if I should walk away. But then she looked up, and our eyes met. No smile, no wave, just a quiet moment, like we were both waiting to see who'd speak first. She gave a small nod. I nodded back. We didn't talk. I walked away, but my heart felt heavy. That night, she texted, "You looked surprised to see me." I replied, "Not surprised. Just wasn't sure if I should say hi." 10 minutes later, she wrote, "I didn't mean to ghost you. I'm just trying to do the right thing. It's not the easy thing." Her words haunted me. The right thing, not the easy thing. A few days later, she sent a longer message. "I've been married 8 years. I was 23 when we got married, pregnant and scared. He tried at first, but we became roles. He works, I take care. He leaves, I wait. I pretend I'm not disappointed." I didn't reply right away. I wanted her to know I was listening. The next day I suggested a walk. She agreed. We met at a park near my place, late in the afternoon, when the sunlight turned golden. She wore jeans, a gray t-shirt, hair tied up. She looked tired but beautiful, like someone carrying a weight too long but refusing to admit it. We walked slowly, aimlessly. She asked about me, my ex, why we broke up. I was honest. We just drifted apart. No betrayal, no fights, just two people who stopped choosing each other. She nodded, like she understood better than anyone. Then she said, "What I'm most afraid of is that he doesn't even notice. He thinks this is enough." I didn't respond. "Some pain can't be fixed with words," she went on. "I've tried therapy, date nights, talking, silence, begging. Nothing works." We sat on a bench by a lake, ducks gliding across the water. "I've been invisible too long," she said, staring into the distance. "Then that night, at the wedding, you looked at me like I was still worth seeing. I met her gaze because you are." Her eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. "I'm afraid of losing everything I've built, even if I hate how it feels." I asked, "Do you want to leave?" She looked away. "Sometimes, other times, I just want to scream and keep pretending." Silence settled over us, heavy but not stifling. She stood. "I have to get back. He'll be home in an hour." I walked her to a car. Before she got in, she hesitated, like she wanted to say something. But then she just opened the door, slid inside, and drove away. The next morning, at 5:58, my phone lit up. "I'm tired of doing the right thing. I just want to feel alive." My heart raced. I typed, "Then start with honesty. What do you want from me, Alice?" She replied instantly, "Not a fairy tale. Just someone who sees me and doesn't look away." I didn't look away. Alice stood at my door, rain drizzling, her hoodie soaked, hair plastered to her cheeks. She didn't say anything, just looked at me, her eyes tired but steady. "I couldn't stay in that house another night," she whispered. I stepped aside, letting her in. We didn't touch, didn't hug, didn't kiss. We just sat on the couch, listening to the rain patter outside. I made tea, handed her a blanket. She curled up in it, like she wanted to hide from the world. That night, we barely spoke, but the silence wasn't empty. It was full of unspoken things, the pain she carried, and the safety I wanted to give her. Alice started coming over more. Often, usually in the evenings, after her kids were asleep, after her husband was away or passed out on the couch. She never stayed the night. We didn't cross any lines, but every time she left I felt a piece of myself go with her. One evening, she sat on my living room rug, quieter than usual. She stared into space, then said, "I told him I'm not happy." I sat up waiting. She continued, her voice flat. I said, "I don't feel anything anymore, that I'm just a roommate, not a wife." I asked, "What did he say?" She gave a bitter laugh. He laughed, thought I was having a midlife crisis, told me to take a hot bath and chill. I wanted to be angry, to yell for her, but I just looked at her, letting her go on. Sometimes I wonder if he ever really loved me, or if I was just a convenient choice. She turned to me, her eyes raw with pain. "You make this harder, Mark." I frowned how she sighed. "Because when I'm with you I remember what it's like to be seen, to be heard, and I hate myself for wanting that." She stood, grabbed her jacket, said she had to go. I didn't stop her. The door closed and I sat in silence, feeling like I'd missed something vital. A week passed with no texts, no calls. I thought I'd gone too far, just by being in her life. But then, one Friday night, my phone lit up. He found our texts. My stomach dropped. I texted back, "You okay?" She replied, "We fought. He says I'm cheating." I said nothing happened, nothing physical, but he doesn't care. Says, "It doesn't change anything." I asked, "What do you want to do?" No response. The next morning, she showed up at my door. Her eyes were red, her voice shaky. I told him I want a separation. She sat on the couch, curling into herself, like a child. "I don't know what's going to happen, Mark. I don't know how to tell the kids. I don't know how to do this alone." I sat beside her. "You're not alone." She leaned into me, the first time she let herself touch me, like she needed to believe it was real. No kiss, no crossing lines. Just two people holding on to each other, trying to keep. Alice moved in with her sister, taking the kids. Her husband alternated between pleading, threatening, and begging. He said she was destroying their family, that she was selfish, that the kids would be hurt. But Alice didn't waver. She hired a lawyer, started divorce proceedings. We didn't see each other much, just texted. Sometimes a photo of her daughter's drawings or a short note. Today was okay. One day she called. "I signed the papers," she said, her voice not happy, not relieved, just calm, like someone who'd swum through freezing water. "I feel like I failed." I said, "You didn't fail. You chose yourself. That's not failure." She was quiet for a moment. "What if I don't know who I am anymore?" I replied, "You'll figure it out, and I'll be here." That night she came over and stayed until morning. We didn't do anything but sleep. Real sleep. Her hand in mine. No guilt, no shame. Just peace. The next morning, over coffee, she looked at me and said, "I'm scared to love again." I said, "That's okay. I'll be here either way." She smiled. "You don't try to fix me. That's why I trust you." Time passed, and we didn't rush. There was no big moment where we declared ourselves a couple. It just happened naturally. Some days were hard. Alice had to face her kids' questions, tense meetings with her ex. But she was stronger than she realized. She found a new therapist, started working full-time. Her smile came back, the kind that reached her eyes. One afternoon she came home to our place now, a small rented house on a quiet street. She said, "Today, I didn't think about him, not once, even in traffic." It was a small but significant victory. The kids started getting used to me. I wasn't Mom's boyfriend, just Mark, the guy who helps with math homework, who learned to tell Elsa blue from regular blue because it matters to a 4-year-old. I remember one evening when her son asked if I'd come to his school play. I looked at Alice, and she gave a small nod. "Of course," I said, and just like that, I became part of their story. One summer night, we sat on the porch after the kids were asleep. The air was warm, quiet, filled with the hum of crickets. I handed her a glass of wine. She looked at me and said, "I don't feel guilty anymore." I asked, "Guilty about what?" She said, "About being happy, about not missing him, about loving someone else in front of my kids." She paused, then added, "About loving you." I took her hand, saying nothing. Her words filled the silence. "I used to be afraid I'd ruin everything," she said. "That leaving was a mistake, but it's not. It's like I can finally breathe." She leaned her head on my shoulder. I looked at the darkening sky. "I was just a guest at that wedding," I said, "and I left with my whole life." She didn't say anything, just squeezed my hand. "We haven't gotten married. No need for a white dress or a guest list to know what we are. We love each other, care for each other, build our life day by day, real and imperfect. It's not a fairy tale. It's better, because it's ours. It's been a year since that fateful dance. Since Alice and I stepped into each other's lives under the soft glow of a stranger's wedding. We didn't set out to find a fairy tale, but we found something more precious, a love that's real, built from hard days, late-night talks, and the smiles that slowly returned to her eyes. Now we live together in a little house where the kids ride bikes on the street, where I've learned to make pancakes and tell Elsa blue from regular blue. It's not perfect, but it's ours. This story isn't just about me and Alice, it's about daring to choose yourself. To take a step, even when you're scared. To believe you're worthy of love. Life isn't always easy, but sometimes, one momentous glance, a dance can change everything. This is Hidden Tales, where we share real stories that touch the heart and make you think. Have you ever had a moment that changed your life? A bold choice that led you down a new path? Share your story in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to catch more heartfelt stories from Hidden Tales. Together, we'll uncover the secrets of the heart and the surprises of life. Drop a comment now, we want to hear your story.